Hello all and welcome back. I hope you're doing really well. Thank you again for the love and support on the most recent video. I seriously appreciate it. This video again has got a ton of different news to be covering, from Hedera right the way through to cryptos like QUANT, as well as what's happening in the rest of the markets. On the fear and greed, unfortunately, we have ticked ever lower. We're now down to 24 on this scale. Yesterday we can see we're at 28 and last week at 29. As opposed to the previous month of 42. As we've said many times in the past, this tends to be a good time to buy into it if you are interested in a long-term play. Of course, short-term, there appears to be a hell of a lot more pain coming, particularly as we now head towards Q4 of this year, where majority of countries are shaping up for a recession. I think Goldman Sachs have turned around and said the UK will be entering a recession in Q4 of 2022. And it's probably similar for a lot of other European countries, as well as probably globally. Interesting tweet here as well from Plan B, talking about Bitcoin's price, but obviously, one of the main drivers for the markets in general. This will not stay blue forever. Macro and markets may be different, but humans don't change. Human behavior is driven by greed, the red dots, and fear, the blue dots. So what we can see here is these red dots on this sort of regressional piece of analysis against the realized price in gray and the weekly moving average in the black line. Is that typically we tend to tick out in this greed zone of where we hit these all-time highs. So this would have been that sort of $69,000 realized price we'd seen previously. And then you have a large correction down. But what we can also see, unfortunately, is these lows in the blue dots of where there is extreme levels of fear. So distance to the realized price, very close. It tends to last a lot longer than what we currently are. So we're only 3 dots in at the moment, according to this kind of scale. And what we've seen before is at least 5 or more different dots of fear. So like consecutive weekly fear across Bitcoin and the majority of the markets. What this chart is particularly saying is, yes, it doesn't last forever. We know that. Obviously, Bitcoin and the crypto markets go through cycles. However, we may not be there may not be light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, at the moment for Bitcoin. On a sort of different angle, when BlackRock predictably buys up all the Bitcoin you dump under $20,000, don't come crying when Bitcoin hits $200,000. And of course, this is in relation to a lot of those institutions like Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, etc., with assets under management in the trillions, are obviously entering the markets at speed and at scale, and they are buying up as much Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as they possibly can, and then they are offering that as well to their institutional clients, incredibly wealthy people and funds, in order to get early exposure to this, because obviously they're in it to make a profit at the end of the day and a return on investment for their clients' money. It's one of the fundamental reasons that they are getting involved in cryptocurrency. And of course, they understand what the future implications for cryptocurrency are. And that is that more exposure and more adoption of the technology is going to continue to happen over the years coming. And it's, of course, already beginning with a lot of these large tech companies as they transition from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. So I guess the TLDR from this, or the insight from this, is effectively make sure you're not missing out. If you want to be involved in this, it's buying during these bear markets or these bottomings is the time to be averaging in and building those positions. I talk a lot about dollar cost averaging, and that is the reason. Not trying to time the market whatsoever, just slowly drip feeding in to build those positions to where I can reap the rewards once the next all-time high and set of bull runs does actually take place. And of course, along the way, making sure that you are actually taking profits. Nobody ever went broke taking a profit. It's always a good idea to make sure you take some of that off the table, and you can obviously try and snowball that as well. Again, not trying to time markets though in doing so. Interesting tweet here from Jeremy Hogan. $1 billion has been lost due to crypto fraud in 2021. However, $15 billion has been lost due to the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. Who is the SEC actually trying to protect again? Gensler says crypto treated just like the market. 200 SEC lawsuits say otherwise via Forbes. So it's true as well that at least $1 billion has been lost to crypto fraud in 2021. However, this pales in comparison to more than $15 billion lost overnight by investors when the SEC brought a $1.3 billion non-fraud lawsuit against enterprise blockchain company Ripple Labs. When the news dropped, exchanges stopped trading XRP's currency. The SEC broad brush approach, which is a priori signal, singles out all crypto offerings exchanges, lending, decentralized finance, and non-fungible tokens, etc. So interesting perspective on that as well. Of course, regulation is important and it'll actually help to drive adoption in the long run. However, targeted sort of regulation like this to go after particular companies to set a precedent is very dangerous. And it's obviously great that XRP/Ripple Labs are continuing to put up a good fight, because it seriously does determine the direction of the crypto markets out into the future. So that's the XRP news currently. Just in as well, UAE-based firm VIRTUZONE has partnered with Binance to accept crypto payments through Binance Pay. So again, Binance are continuing to expand their offerings and enable this adoption to continue at scale. Moving on to Quant then, so from 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗡𝗦, you may have seen Quant surpassed 65,000 wallets this week, up from 26,000 last August and 8,000 the August before. In honor of the 65,000 wallets, it got him thinking, what would it take to generate $65,000 per year in passive income from Quant? So here's the thread. To start making passive income, we'd first need a Quant network to release some community gateways. All transactions on Overledger flow through these gateways, and those who run one could stake their Quant to be rewarded for every transaction their gateway processes. So think of this like a node. Let's do some math then. So the target being $65,000 a year, or roughly $178 per day. The assumption one would be 70% of all Quant tokens get staked, which is around 10 million tokens. Assumption two, the gateway pays out 1/100th of a cent, or 0.001 US dollar, the same as the Hbar fee per transaction. And assumption three, Overledger processes 100 billion transactions per day. So 100 billion Overledger transactions per day multiplied by the 0.0001 cents per transaction equals roughly $10 million of total transaction fees per day, or i.e. revenue for the network or the Overledger. 10 million total transaction fees per day divided by the number of Quant staked, which the assumption was 10 million staked, equals $1 per staked Quant per day. So for 178 per day of target income divided by the $1 staked Quant per day is of course 178 Quant. So in this example with these numbers, with this throughput, you would need roughly 178 Quant staked to earn 178 US dollars per day. Obviously multiplied out by the 365 gives you the 65,000 US dollars per annum. In this scenario, users staking the 178 Quant would make that figure. It may even be lower than 178 to start, as your Quant would compound over the course of the year, assuming you restake your transaction fee rewards back into your gateway. Assumption 1 and 2, 70% of Quant staked and the transactional fee are fairly realistic. And assumption 3 of 100 billion transactions per day is where the faith lies in the exercise. For comparison's sake, Visa and MasterCard currently combine for about 1 billion transactions per day. So of course, this is really sort of pie in the sky stuff at the moment on Greg's part. For an assumption basis, he's effectively assuming that Quant itself, its Overledger, will process more transactions than Visa and MasterCard combined, which I'm not saying is an impossibility. However, of course, in the short term, nothing like that is going to happen. But it is possible for Overledger to do 100 times Visa and MasterCard's volume. The simple answer being yes, assuming it's a winning interoperability solution in a hyper DLT world. Remember, DLTs are not just about payments. Eventually, they'll represent every microtransaction occurring online. Again, this boils down to looking at Hedera, for example, and what the consensus algorithms and Hashgraph are enabling with services like 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗏, tracking of goods. The sustainability side is not just about payments. Of course, Hedera has been shown to be able to do CBDCs with that recent Haiti CBDC going live, and then of course developments and securitization of ASDC over in Australia. It really can do a hell of a lot more than just one particular function. 10 to 15 years from now, nearly all digital systems will be tokenized and require DLT interoperability to function. Every ad that's served, every song that's streamed, every message that's been sent, tokenization will reshape the world similar to how the internet did. And this is something that I've been banging on a lot when I talk about NFTs in their current shape and form at the moment. Of course, they are just sort of fun JPEGs that sit within a wallet. However, it's part of a bigger picture of tokenization adoption. And it goes back to those articles we looked at previously from Goldman Sachs, saying that tokenization could unlock trillions of dollars for the crypto markets in general. Just the sheer ability to bring offline assets into an online world via tokenization is completely game-changing. The example that I use a lot as well is think of housing markets, how frictional and inefficient they currently are. If you tokenized a lot of those different stages, it would be a much cheaper way to execute those transactions. in a much faster way as well. There's enough transactions to go around, and Overledger reaching 100 billion per day is simply a matter of market share. Partnering with Oracle, which has got 400,000 plus customers, Nexi Group of 1,000 plus financial institutions, and LACChain over 15 countries is certainly a strong start. With the level of volume, the price of Quant would likely be substantial. So while $65,000 a year may seem like a lot, it actually wouldn't be that much compared to the value of the 150 to 175 individual Quant tokens that you would actually need to run the gateway that generates those fees. So what do you think? Is 175 Quant a good accumulation target? Can Overledger reach 100 billion transactions per day? And then he's asking for people to let them know your thoughts. And of course, many people talk about this. The tokenomics of Quant itself are quite frankly absurd. The upper limit for the Quant tokens price is in the thousands per token. So at the moment, when you're looking at Quant tokens that are sub $100, for me, as an interoperability solution similar to Chainlink, obviously its tokenomics aren't as great, but its fundamentals are still as strong as Quant's. These are really fantastic buying opportunities, and why I've been buying Quant a hell of a lot recently. And obviously I've spoken at length as to why I have been doing so. Anyway, jumping across to Hbar then. Hbar is primed to become a top 10 token. I've been using Saucerswap Labs to buy, swap, and farm Hbar over the past few days. XRP, XRPL family, don't miss out on this huge opportunity. I wanted to touch on this because it's a recurring theme we're seeing at the moment of kind of the merging of the Hbar and XRP communities at the moment. So this Twitter account that tweeted this is sort of a very large Twitter account, 175,000 followers, called 𝗟𝗜𝗡𝗏𝗦. And this is one of dozens that are sort of traditional XRP investors that are now looking to Hbar, and the same goes for other chains like XLM. They are looking at Hbar and realizing the true potential and are trying to get in early like the rest of us. And this is great for sentiment across the board. We're seeing this across many different socials, not just on Twitter itself. And just goes to show again that Hedera's development behind the scenes, the things that the Acceleration Foundations and Hbar Foundations have been doing, are clearly working. And the next thing we really need to see go live is those big use cases like the Coupon Bureau and Atmo.io. Like I said, I've been taking or keeping a close eye on the testnet. And again, we saw transactions per second in the thousands the other night, 2 to 4 to 5, 6,000 transactions per second for a sustained period of time. So something big is being tested on that testnet. And hopefully we see the fruits from that labor very shortly. Great tweet here as well from Mei Chan, obviously the founder or the CEO of Hashpack, saying gaming is heating up in Hedera. Let's go. So Earthlings.land, obviously I've covered them again on the channel previously. Humbly wanting to thank our awesome community for making this happen. And we can see some of these NFTs at the moment from the last 7 days on Zoos.market. The total volume of 600,000 Hbars for those Earth Founders cards. And of course, Earthlings.io is that game that is being developed on top of Hedera. I have a dedicated video on that. You guys can go check that out, but I am following this closely and will release a new video in the future as more information goes out. But again, great ways to get involved early. Some major updates as well from Saucerswap Labs. I believe the DApp went down recently for a short period while they're upgrading some of their backend services. And part of that as well is an API has been released tracking the prices both in Terra, Hbar, and USD of every single HTS token on Saucerswap. Excited to see what dApps are in the works. Great release here from Saucerswap's team themselves. Of course, this is in a traditional API format in JSON. And what's great to see as well is there appears to be no sign up at the moment in order to utilize this DApp. It is just a single link, an API link over on their website. So you can find this in their documentation threads, api.saucerswap.finance/tokens. And if we go across to this, we can literally see it spat out in a JSON format. I'm not sure what the refresh period of this is. It seems to be every so many minutes or so. Obviously this gets refreshed, but this is perfect for those developers looking to integrate this into any dApps they're building in the future. And again, this goes hand in hand with those announcements that Saucerswap were talking about recently, as them putting themselves at the center of the ecosystem and becoming the price oracle for all tokens on Hedera Hashgraph itself. And of course, that bodes very well for the source token going forward in the future. Lots of different use cases and utility for that token in general. Talking about the ecosystem and sort of NFTs on Hedera itself, because it's still been doing, or the projects have been doing very well, and we continue to see Zoos Market break records day over day. There doesn't appear to be a bear market at the moment within the NFT scene on Hedera, as we are garnering new retail traders from the likes of Ethereum and Solana, Avalanche, Phantom, etc. A lot of new users are entering the Hedera space. Many people have been asking me about utility-based projects, and at the moment I can't really think of a better utility-based project so far. Maybe Earthlings.land in the future, depending on what comes out, other than CREAMIES NFT. And recent tweet from them as well showing that they've crossed 2 million Hbar in volume, with a floor price as of them posting this tweet of just shy of 12,000 Hbar. Really interesting collection, 1,111 different CREAMIES, and it's a gateway into the Creamland, Creamery, and Cream games. And what we can see over here on creamies.space, I will leave this link down in the description for you guys to look at as you so wish. Under the Creamery section here, if you do own some of these NFTs, you can claim 100 Cream tokens per day every 24 hours by associating your wallet, by connecting the wallet up here, and then you go ahead and click Claim Cream, and it will basically deposit those 200 tokens into your wallet, of course, making sure that you've associated the Cream token to begin with. Another feature that you have is to be able to trade in 5 CREAMIES for 1 random Master Creamer, and you get additional benefits for owning that Master Creamer, which is like a more premium version of the NFT, by trading those in. I'm not sure why it says they're not available at the moment. Potentially they're all out. There's no more Master Creamers available. I'm not sure, unless there's an error. You guys would have to check yourselves. The other thing you can utilize the Cream tokens for is the Cream games, and these are almost sort of like dice games or coin flip games, where you can effectively hedge those tokens against some form of action. So here you've got to pick a side on a dice. So I'm going to guess that this dice roll would be a 1. I want to pledge 100 Cream. I think the multiplier is something like 5.7 or 6 times. So if it is a 1, my 100 Cream, I effectively get around 600 Cream tokens back. And if it was sort of 500, you get 3,000 tokens or something along those lines. You'd hit roll dice. That transaction appears in your Hashpack wallet like normal. You approve the transaction, and then if you were correct and you guessed correctly, of course it's a game of chance, you would either receive the rewards or you would lose the tokens that you effectively pledged for this transaction because you didn't get it correct. The same goes for the Cream flip, which is effectively a coin toss, and that's a coin toss, and that is effectively pick a side, heads or tails, select an amount, very similar. Slightly higher odds by the looks of it on that one. You've also got the rarity tools over on this website, so you can obviously input the ID for the CREAMIES that you're looking to purchase or that you currently own. You can click search and you find the overall rarity for that particular NFT, which is really nice to see, and a breakdown here of the different sections on the NFT itself, from the background, flavors, headwear, etc., etc. And the last thing I wanted to cover quickly about the CREAMIES collection is what's in their white paper or their cream paper for their future roadmap, and that's along the lines of Creamlands. So Creamlands is scheduled to be released in Q3 of 2022. The Creamlands will allow holders to stake their CREAMIES, Master Creamers, and the lands itself for Cream and Hbar tokens, as well as earning future NFTs. Master Creamers will receive some land allocation as well as some reserved lands pre-sale. The Creamlands is going to be a multi-project collaboration effort, more geared towards social marketing and value creation of the Web3 space overall. So obviously these guys are looking for the long term on Hedera itself, and are continuing to build and flesh these things out along with their roadmap. Not only that, of course, the Cream tokens that you earn are fully tradable and supported on Saucerswap. You can go ahead and claim those tokens. If you don't want to hold on to them, you can swap them for things like Hbar or Source. Actually, at the time of me making this video, I did take a quick look. The 100 Cream tokens you'd receive from owning 1 NFT, and of course that scales, so two NFTs would be 200 tokens, 10 NFTs, 1,000 tokens a day. 100 tokens is worth roughly 30 cents or 30 cents. If you multiply that out against your purchase price, which I think at the moment the floor price for this collection is around 10,000 Hbar, somewhere around 600 and something dollars for 10,000 Hbar, and you extrapolate out, that is actually roughly a 16% APR or a 16% return on investment over 365 days if you claim the 100 tokens every single day, every 24-hour period. That's the kind of return you're looking for. Not only that, you can obviously provide liquidity as well for the Cream token along with another token such as Hbar or Source on the Saucerswap Labs website to earn additional yield against those Cream tokens themselves. increasing that APR even further. So these NFTs actually do have quite a lot of utility based on the fact that you can claim those Cream tokens every single day, which obviously scales with the more CREAMIES NFTs that you hold. Unfortunately, the price of these is getting very, very expensive now, though, as we saw by that recent tweet of the volume against the project on Zoos itself. And if we do flick across and have a quick look on Zoos, you can see that floor price at 9,500 Hbar, currently 52 different NFTs listed, over 2.1 million Hbar in volume. Of course, these guys have a Discord server as well, where they are incredibly active with everything they're doing in terms of their roadmap. Obviously, one of the co-founders is Monkey. I'm sure many of you have seen him around in the community. If not on Discord servers, you've probably seen him on Twitter. And of course, he helps run that Discord server. And I'm sure he will respond to any of your messages if you have some more questions about this particular project. Anyway, guys, hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment if you've got something to say. I do try and respond to as many of them as I possibly can. And until the next one, I'll catch you then. Cheers.